Dust blew like ash through the trading post, clinging to Clara Mayfield's hair as her father's voice bargained her away. The man across from him, thick beard, sunburned face, spat in the dirt before counting 2 silver coins and laying down a sack of grain. Her father's hand closed around the payment as if sealing a mercy. It wasn't mercy. It was disposal. Clara stood barefoot beside the wagon, wind biting her ankles. She wanted to speak, to ask why, but the words tangled in her throat. Her mother kept her eyes on the ground, twisting the edge of her apron until the fabric tore. That small sound felt louder than any farewell. The trader didn't look at Clara as he snapped the reins. The wagon jerked forward, leaving behind the family that had traded her name for bread. She stared at the shrinking town until it became a smear of dust and guilt. By nightfall, the wagon wheels caught in a rutted path near the foothills. The trader cursed, struck the mule, and kept moving until the axle snapped clean. "Worthless day, worthless girl," he muttered before stomping off into the dark. He didn't return. Clara waited for hours, watching stars bloom like frost across the sky. Cold crept up her spine, hunger clawed at her belly. Somewhere beyond the trees, wolves began to sing. She curled beneath a pine, clutching a torn blanket, trying not to imagine teeth in the dark. "I'll be something," she whispered, her breath forming ghosts in the air. Snow started to fall, slow and soundless. Her eyelids drooped. The world blurred into white. Then, boots. A lantern glow. A shadow bent over her, voice rough and low. "You picked a hell of a place to die, girl." Her eyes fluttered open, and hope flickered. When Clara woke, the world smelled of smoke and pine. She lay beneath a bearskin, her fingers wrapped around a cup of broth, too hot to hold. Across the fire sat the man who'd found her, a tall figure with a beard like tangled bark and eyes the color of riverstone. He said his name was Eli Turner. Beyond that, nothing. The cabin creaked in the wind, each sound sharp against the hush of falling snow. Clara's voice came out thin. "Why'd you help me?" Eli shrugged without looking up. "Didn't plan to." "But you were freezing in my woodpile days turned to weeks." She regained her strength by tending the fire, hauling water, learning to swing an axe that weighed more than her will. Eli never praised, only nodded when she got something right. She learned his silences carried more meaning than most men's words. At night he sat by the hearth sharpening his knife, the rhythmic scrape filling the air. Sometimes he spoke of the mines, of men who killed for gold and called it work. Other times he said nothing, just stared into the flames as though seeing ghosts. When a blizzard rolled in, the roof groaned under the weight of snow. The wind howled like it had teeth. On the second night, something heavy struck the door, then claws, a low snarl. Eli reached for his rifle, but Clara was faster. She fired through the crack, the recoil jarring her shoulder. Silence fell, deep and final. Eli's eyes found hers in the dim light. "Guess you ain't useless after all." Outside, the storm began to ease, but a new unease settled in her chest. Through the window, faint footprints led away into the trees, too long, too deliberate to belong to any beast. Spring loosened the mountains from their silence. Snowmelt roared through the gullies, carrying branches and memory alike. Clara worked beside Eli, patching the cabin roof, laughter occasionally breaking the steady rhythm of hammers. Yet some nights, when the wind turned sharp, she still saw those footprints in her dreams. The danger came back with the thaw. 3 riders appeared one dawn, faces hidden, voices too casual to belong to strangers. Eli stiffened as they dismounted, hands near their belts. "Old friends," one said, grinning through broken teeth. "Heard you've been sitting on something shiny." "Gold." The word hung in the air like smoke. Eli's jaw clenched, his rifle lowering an inch too late. They rushed him, and Clara moved before thinking, shoving the door closed, barring it with her shoulder. A bullet splintered the wood beside her face. She grabbed Eli's pistol, heart hammering, and fired through the crack. One man dropped with a grunt, the others cursed and fell back. The cabin filled with the smell of gunpowder and fear. Eli pulled her behind the hearth, whispering, "Stay low." But Clara was already loading again, her hands steady despite the shaking world. When the next man burst through the door, she fired once more. Clean, precise. Silence returned, broken only by the hiss of the dying fire. Eli stared at her, ash clinging to his beard. "You saved my damn life." She smiled faintly, breath trembling. "Then we're even." By morning, smoke curled from the rebuilt chimney. The cabin stood scarred but unbroken, like the two who had defended it. Eli carved her name above the door, Clara Turner. Each letter struck deep into the wood. She ran her hand across it, eyes soft. Once she'd been sold for grain. Now she was worth the whole mountain.